Boop. And we are live. This is the second episode of Braxcast Live. So, going to wait for some people to get in here. Just sent out the message on multiple platforms. So, hopefully, people see it. Hopefully, we have another fun episode because we got a good amount of stuff to talk about. Great War of Separation 2 is going to be having its collection next week on the 26th. So it's absolutely insane with the Rippaverse release schedule. Of course, I got the Young Isom statue. Definitely going to go be talking about that soon, but I just want to wait for some people to get into the room. So, or I guess the live stream is the better, more apt term. But I think while that is going on, I'll just go see, we'll add to the stage. So this is the Great War of Separation trailer, but we'll switch to this tab instead. This is, of course, the Yaira 2 collection. But yeah, Zalen also crossed the $100,000 marker. So yeah, that makes it a lot better. So we've got the $114,000, 4,100 books sold for Zalen. What Kills Must Die. Really, really nice to see that. Of course, the fans are loving everything the Riftverse is putting out, and now we're getting Great War Separation number 2 on the 26th of March, 6 a.m. Central Time. That's the time slot that they like to release the campaigns. It's very early in the morning. Of course, like that's 7 a.m. for me, so it's like right before I have to go to work on these campaigns. So I put the order in, and then I head off to work because it's basically always a weekday that they release campaigns, which makes sense. Everybody's working, everybody's available in case there's any problems. But we got 2 people in the chat, so if anybody is here, I guess you got 2 people here, say hello. But if you don't want to say hello, that is perfectly okay. I think we'll start with going for the Great War of Separation trailer. We'll watch it right now. Yeah, I got Ram in the chat. Yeah, Great War Separation 2 is coming out, which is really exciting because we had the first Great War Separation. I just reviewed that last week. And that is going to be, or I'd say it's, of course, a limited series. And really, what Great War Separation does is it's really establishing the rest of the limited series. So, issues 2, probably issue 3, maybe even we'll get a 4th issue because it's probably, I think Chuck Dixon mentioned it's like a 200-page script, so he probably wrote it all as like one script, and they're just chopping it up into probably either 3 or 4 books around that length of 56 pages. So we'll definitely get a whatchamacallit. Oh yeah, copy of number 1 comes in next week along with your Yaira number 2 copy. Well, enjoy both. I'm getting Yaira number 2 tomorrow. So I put my order for Yaira number 2 in day 1. That was like the 9th of January, I think. I could go and check. But anyway, I'm getting that tomorrow. So when I do Braxcast 57, I will do I'll show off Yaira number 2, those graded copies I'm going to get, and then I will do my review. So I'll upload both basically the same day. It'll be like I did last week. And we got John Constant in the chat. He's left quite a few comments. Very appreciative of that. And he's here for the live stream. So welcome, John. So glad you made it. This is the first time I've seen an issue 2 announcement. So psyched for it. Yes, this is actually really exciting. So, of course, we got Yaira number 2. That was a pretty big announcement. Very, very exciting. Of course, Isom number 2. I've been around. I've been in a fan of the Rippaverse, I should say, since Isom number 1. So when Isom number 1 came out, July of 2022, that's when the pre-order campaign came out. We got the book end of September, beginning of October. That's the fulfillment period. There was like over probably close to 60,000 orders they had to fulfill. And so it took a while for them to fulfill number 1, and then there was all these growing pains that they have between 1 and 2. So it took a while for us to get Isom 2, but Isom 2 was a really big event for the fans. So Ram avoided my review for Great War Separation because of spoilers. I'll watch after you read it, which is perfectly okay. Very much appreciate that. No one's under any obligation to watch my videos, but hopefully when you get the book, you read it, you enjoy it, and then you watch my video, you enjoy it as well. Although watching reviews out of books that you've read is not necessarily the most useful thing. We've got looks. I'm not sure if this is Student of God. It says ha 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 ha. That is Student of God's profile picture, but if that is Student of God, hello to you. Of course, he's been talking to me. I do like Student of God. So remember when number one came out, found out about the Rippaverse on the third day of the Isom 1 campaign. Yeah, Isom 1 campaign was a massive event for the Rippaverse. Absolutely massive. Oh, we got Andrew in the chat here. So Andrew, I've got the StreamYard link here. And anybody's welcome to join. So I would definitely want to start doing this thing. I'm calling it Catch Street because that's Isom's catchphrase, where we take Rippaverse characters and we pit them against each other. And I think Chadran and Santwan are the big bruisers of the Rippaverse. I definitely want to do a versus for them. Of course, I think Bloodroof and Yaira would be very good, but after Yaira number 2, I think that would be a time to do it. And of course, I'm open to doing this with Rippaverse characters with other comic book characters. So it's like a Yaira versus Wonder Woman, someone in the Twitter space. Let's see if I can't find it. If I can just go and share this window here, and we can go, oh, we got the people liking this tweet. Very nice of them. That's sure how Andrew saw my tweet. Very appreciative of everyone who's coming out here. We got 5 people in the chat. Absolutely fantastic. Or 5 people watching. So yeah, this is this tweet. Or let's see. I have to add this to the stage. And I'm going to move this. But you see here, Yaira versus Wonder Woman, who would win? I'm a bit of a comic book newbie. I think that's the best term to say. I saw the, I think, what was it, 2017 Wonder Woman movie. A lot of people like that. I think it was a decent movie. But I don't have much experience with the comic books of Wonder Woman, of course. And of course, I know she's a character in the Justice League, so I can get like a Justice League omnibus and read more about that, and then I'd have a formed opinion. But Yaira versus Wonder Woman would be a really good episode of Catch Street. I would just either need to read up on Wonder Woman or get somebody who knows about Wonder Woman a lot, and then we could have a nice little debate. It's kind of like It's Clobbering Time that John Longbox does. But also, I did get the Young Isom statue. So you see this picture here is of my Young Isom statue. This is the 42nd Young Isom statue. It's a 1/8 scale, so it's a lot smaller than the Yaira statue. So I've got him set up on my nightstand. He's going to be watching over me, making sure that no X-ups come while I'm trying to sleep. So very solid statue. Absolutely love it. But it's definitely a lot smaller than the Yaira statue. But of course, I'll be showing off the Young Isom statue in the episode of Braxcast 57, just like I did with the Yaira number 1 statue. And of course, I'll be showing them side by side, so that way you guys can see just the size difference between them. Because the Yaira number 1 or the Yaira statue is a lot more substantial than the Yaira than the Isom statue. Ugh, cannot speak. But yeah, so that is the Isom statue. Absolutely looks beautiful. Love the Young Isom statue. Of course, it's based off of Isom 2, cover D, by the illustrious Caden White. Fantastic artist. Of course, he's also the interior artist for Saoirse that started in Ripazine number 2 as a short story. Now it's an ongoing series, and of course, Caden White's going to be doing the art on that. So having him on an ongoing series is absolutely fantastic. But we're going to remove those pictures, and we're going to go into, like I said, Santwan versus Chadran. So I'm going to get the StreamYard here so I can see this. So, like I said, I think Santwan versus Chadran to start like the inaugural Catch Street for Braxcast Live. If I'm going to pit Rippaverse characters against each other, I think Santwan and Chadran are the 2 best. So I've got both of their Dokuman cards here. I'm going to read both of them, and then I'm going to go into who I think is the more, I guess, a stronger character. If we have these 2 characters in a fight, who would win? So we're starting with Santwan. His real name is Swanton, doesn't have a last name. According to Dokuman, he's 6'7", at least 500 pounds, lives in Forest Park, don't know where he was born. and he's a fear to accept for hire. Santwan is one of the strongest men this planet has to offer. He'll do good or bad as long as he gets paid. He's currently working for Darren Fontano, which has to be fairly lucrative for him. His gold teeth has become somewhat iconic by those who recognize him. I'm not sure when his teeth became so expensive, but they've been this way since I first took interest in him as a subject. Santwan's confidence is unreal, and he's never been in a fight that he didn't think he couldn't win. I think he didn't think he could win. I think that's probably the way to phrase it. And he's gone up against beings that aren't from Earth. Is he truly driven by the money, or is that a facade, or for something else? Is that a facade or something else? To my knowledge, his power is brute strength. One of the greatest feats I've witnessed him is dragging an operable tank that belonged to the Texas military. And then we've got Chadran here. Oh, we got Macabre Dark in the chat. So if you're just getting in here, I'm doing Chadran versus Santwan. I'm calling this Ket Street. I'm kind of inspired. I was inspired by John Lombox's It's Clobbering Time, where he pits up characters and he chooses two characters. And he did Cyberfrog versus Isom, and I came into that live stream, and then we had a very spirited discussion that was absolutely fantastic. So the juggernaut known as Chadran, who's 8'5", 600 pounds, so he's definitely more substantial than Santwan, is the reason Isom retired, or rather his beating an innocent to a bloody pulp while he was unable to save her was his true motivation. You never forget the first person whom you're wholly mismatched to fight, and how truly helpless that feels. I wonder if he still hears her screams, sees those terrified eyes staring back at him, those pathetic pleas for help, before that horrible moment haunting him wherever he goes. Maybe to finally put her soul to rest, he must continue his vocation to fight evil and protect the innocent. Chadran is unaffected by the damage he's caused. He swats those who dare stand against him like flies to their deaths. A true nightmare-inducing monster. Unraveling the mysteries behind his identity will be the secret to defeating him. However, should history repeat itself, it is more than likely that Chadran will be the reason for a much more permanent retirement for Isom. And he is nearly invulnerable to physical attack. He seems more surprised than anything when he's attacked. He speaks an otherworldly language that hides his true motivations. Considering his unspeakably severe actions in going after targets, he is pure evil. One might even say demonic. He can easily crush an Accept skull with one hand. It doesn't morally affect him to kill women. He enjoys it. Curiously, his hair appears to be impenetrable. So let's see. We've got, let's see. Take it and like it. How wild. How dare you guys slap me in the face with that Great War Separation trailer? It's like, Andrew saying, "We'll take it and like it." This is the thing, Andrew. You guys gotta stop releasing stuff, like so much stuff, man. Like I cannot cover all of this amount of stuff. I 2 weeks in a row, man. I'm covering statues. I got the Yaira 1 statue last week, and I did a review for Great War Separation #1, and now this week I got to do the Young Isom statue and a review for Yaira #2. So it is absolutely insane the amount of stuff that the Rippaverse is doing, and we of course love to see it. So, but back to what I'm trying to say. Yeah, Rippaverse out here coming for our wallets. I've said this before. I've gone on record. The only detractor that I think the biggest detractor of the Rippaverse is my wallet. My wallet hates the Rippaverse the most. That is the thing. The biggest criticizer of the Rippaverse, the one who's instrumented every negative thing about the Rippaverse, has been my wallet, because of just how much the Rippaverse has attacked and assaulted my wallet. I'll go on the record saying that. So Macabre Dark is bringing us back on topic to Chadran versus Santwan. Power scale, pretty sure Chadran wins. I just find more story potential in Chadran. I agree with you there. Santwan being a mercenary definitely has a lot of story opportunities. We don't know much about Chadran, of course, having this one appearance in Isom #2 and it being a flashback appearance, that being the reason why Isom quit. Is definitely good. It's important, but we don't have a lot to go off with Chadran. We do know his hair is impenetrable. It's like it acts like a solid object. Eric did talk about that, I think, in a question of the day a while back when he first launched that series. What is up with Chadran's hair? And it's like this solid impenetrable object, and it did injure Isom's hand when he punched Chadran. So very interesting. But I do think in a pure physical battle, because Chadran and Santwan, they're both physical. That's where their power draws from. And since Chadran is bigger, he's going to have more reach. He's going to be more ruthless, and he's got the hair contending for him. So I think Chadran would win pretty easily against Santwan. And based on the fact that we don't have a lot between Santwan and Chadran in terms of like, it's not like this is like the Thing versus the Punisher, or the Thing versus the Hulk, I should say, would be a better one, where there's like decades of comic issues that you can go and talk about. This is, we've got basically 2 books for Santwan, and we've got 1 for Chadran. So we do not basically have a lot. So Santwan is basically the Boba Fett of the Rippaverse, is what Panax07 is saying. I don't necessarily agree with that, because Boba Fett was really quick to get eliminated in Star Wars. I think he has like 6 lines and he's just gone. Of course, I think he was in the prequels a little bit, although I'm not the biggest Star Wars guy. I'm not Star Wars Furies. If that's the guy who, if I'm getting his name correctly. But no, I don't think he's quite like that. But I think Santwan is definitely one who's going to show up more and more. But he certainly is an interesting mercenary, very interesting character. And when Isom first launched, I thought he was apt to get his own series. And I still think that's a possibility, but it probably would be a limited series. But I think what would be really cool is if Santwan got a story in the Ripazine. I think having like a 16 to 20 page story in like Ripazine 4 or 5, and I'm sure Andrew would know about this if he's still in the chat, for which 10 people are watching, which I think is like the most, or around the most I've had for a live stream. So we've got to keep reading the chat. So Rippaverse, this is from Logic's Finest. Rippaverse is a real comic book company, comics, magazines with shorts and previews, statues, impending animation, an entire expanding universe like the big 2. This is what I signed up for. Well done. Yes, I agree with you so much, Logic, is that when Isom 1 first launched and it made $3.7 million, this is what we as the fan base saw as the opportunity. And Eric took that money, instead of buying like 2 Lambos and driving off to the sunset and never doing anything again with comics, which, he probably, well, a lot of people would have done that. He was like, I'm getting to work. I'm going to use this money to facilitate what is currently happening, where we've got 14 books that were talked about in the reveal that are going to be released this year. And we've already gotten 2 books that we know that weren't in the Rip reveal. That is Great War Separation number 2 and Ripazine number 3. And of course, we've got the animations that are impending. We've got 2 statues. I'm sure there's more stuff in the works. And of course, you've got a whole animation studios. You've got the stuff with the membership website. So it is just so much that the Rippaverse is doing to really cement themselves as an actual comic book publisher, and I am totally here for it. So Caffeinated Wolf, what I was talking about with the Ripazine, he doesn't know anything about that. He is under the NDA. So we'll do that. So Panax07 saying Rippaverse role-playing game when? I think like a big grandiose video game is probably 5 years down the line minimum. I don't think the coffers are big enough for them to do anything that's like that expensive. And a video game can be extremely profitable. It's just going to have a really long release cycle, or it's going to take a long time for it to get released. And you're going to be pouring a lot of money, especially if you're going to make like something complicated like a role-playing game. And I'm not sure if you mean like a TTRPG, like a tabletop role-playing game, which would be a lot cheaper to develop, or if you're talking about like something like Cyberpunk 2077 or The Witcher 3 or Skyrim, where it's an open world RPG that's really complex. That's going to take a lot of time and money to develop, and I don't think the Rippaverse is there where they could afford to put the amount of money that Ubisoft or CD Projekt Red or Capcom or these big companies that have like millions and millions of dollars in the bank to bankroll a game like that. That'd be a really interesting thing. Let's see. So Eric only bought 1.5 Lambos. Okay. Very fun to know. But Panax07, thanks for being so active in the chat. Was thinking paper and dice and scale from there. Yeah, what you call it? A like a tabletop role playing game, that probably would make sense to develop. It's just that I think Andrew's talked about that. It's like a niche of a niche. It's not too many people are into the TTRPG scene, and of course, comic books is even more limited market. So to launch one of those is going to be still like you have to make the dollars make sense. But that would be a really cool thing to do. Let's see. We've got. Uh, I'm so I'm like I'm a bit let's see. So we're going to add this back to the chat. I'm going to put that back up there. And we're going to go, I think, probably talking about Yaira number 2 a little bit as we transition back into talking about the chat. John Constant is asking, has there been any updates about the Ripaverse app? So I think you're talking about like the membership website. It's something that they're still working on. Probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago, they were tinkering around with the back end on the membership website. I was charged like twice for my February membership, although Kara got that resolved for me really quickly. So they are definitely making moves for that. And but we'll see. But we haven't gotten like any solid updates of like it's coming out at X date. But definitely it's something that'll probably happen this year, hopefully. Because I'm bigly involved in. Let's see. We'll go to my Riververse members. So you got the members.Eric D July website, and let's see. Actually, I'm going to let's see. We'll stop sharing the screen so that way you guys don't see my login information, and then we'll present the screen again. Yep, there we go. We are back in, so we're going to share that Ripaverse membership there, and we're going to actually add it to the stage so you guys can see what I'm seeing. So basically, I post a daily poll. I post on my Substack, but I started posting it on this membership forum. It used to be the Eric G. July Merrick member forum, but now it's just Ripaverse members. And this is the current forum system. Of course, it's really basic. Not a lot of people interact with it. But we'll definitely, hopefully, get a much more better and vamped version of this. But this is what currently exists if you become a member. Of course, if you just click on a poll, this is the one I posted today at 4:42 a.m. because I just get up that early. And this was about Phoenism. We've been doing a lot of theological stuff lately, but we'll get back into the chat. So any chance of a story about characters from a different solar system primarily happening there, but occasionally crossing paths with Earth? Basically, Earth has a rare occurrence for that book. I mean, that's basically what Zalen is going to be, I imagine. And then PanX07 very much says to that, Repazine Free has dirty deeds. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, there was a quality of life update, but that was with the website itself. So we'll go to the ripaverse.com, and that involved the talking about the hero stash and basically this section here. So you have all your series and graphic novels. So if I'm just, I don't know what the Ripaverse is, and I go to, the comics and I scroll all the way down, you can check out basically all the series, and it's like, oh, I want to see Saoirse. What is a Saoirse character? And you can see all the people who are involved in Saoirse. And you say introducing Saoirse. We've got the her preview in the or her introducing Saoirse as she's shown off in Repazine number 2. Of course, I think it would be nice to have we got Saoirse number 1, and that is an upcoming book. So we don't know who's coloring it, we don't know who's lettering it, but we do know that Kanan White is drawing it. This is an error. If Andrew is still in the chat, I'm not sure if you guys can see this, but if you can see this right now, you see Kanan White is the writer. I think Eric July is the writer. But yeah, those are the quality of life updates, Panex. So it doesn't have anything to do with the membership specifically. So there is that. So it's with the Ripaverse site itself, and the membership functionality of the website is what John was talking about. And John is also saying we need a binder for the Dokumon cards. Definitely agree with you that I have all 3 decks of the Dokumon cards, and having a binder would be really nice, especially since the especially since the cardboard boxes, like they're nice, but cardboard is always going to be subject to Frank. So if you got a really high quality binder that of course has some like great Kanan White artwork, or you could get Will Conrad to do the art, which would make sense. Oh yeah, so let's see, how close are we to the Horseman membership wise series? So we can actually check right now, Panex, because let's see, if I go to The members, no. If I go to rippaverse.com slash member birds, if that's a thing, there is a counter. Yeah, here we go. So we are at 21%, so 5,000, so 20%. So there's about like 1,050 members or so. So there's, about 20% of the way there, or 21%. So you need 79% increase in membership or something like that. But basically, that is where we're currently at. So you can become a Mac for as little as $5 a month. Of course, I'm an Ultra Mac. As you can see, I'm logged into my account here, which is the $50 monthly tier. I get the free shipping, of course. You get the free copy of the latest Ripazine for all of them. So whenever a Ripazine comes out, you just make an order, you get a coupon, and you get the free Ripazine. That is absolutely awesome. But that is how close. So once we hit this membership goal of getting 5,000 members, we get that first episode of the Horsemen. Of course, Dean Cain would be voicing the Horsemen, and then at 10,000 members, we get a full season. So that is how close we are to the membership goal, Panex. So that is there. Of course, Scorpio04 is in the chat saying, hail to you, Scorpio. Thank you for coming to this live stream. Absolutely fantastic that all of you guys are here nerding out with the Rippaverse with me. So, of course, Yaira actually, if we can go share this tab instead. We're at the Yaira number 2 collection page. So during its collection, 10,805 bucks sold, 371,000 in sales. Of course, this is just the collection numbers. Once the collection closes, this counter stops, but the book keeps on being sold. And I am getting this all to myself. I'm getting all of this tomorrow, I should say. That's when my Yaira number 2 order is going to come in. So tomorrow I will be doing a review of Yaira number 2. And along with showing off these graded copies of Yaira number 2 on the Braxcast, along with reviewing the Art of Jack Herbert. So I have the Art of Jack Herbert. I will be reviewing that. I'm going through it in its entirety. And Braxcast 57, along with talking about all the recent Rippaverse news. Macabre Derek, I should say, is still gushing over Bloodroof at this point. Probably comes just under Alpha Core as my top book so far. Also has Yaira number 2 on the way. And Bloodroof is a fantastic book. Absolutely love that book. I gave it a really positive review on the channel. So you're on this YouTube channel and you're not subscribed. We're almost at 100 subscribers, guys. Got like 92 subs today. So thank you guys for subbing. Like, YouTube is by far my biggest platform. Like, Substack is like what is like my baby. That's where I centralize everything. I got like 82 subscribers there, but like 92 subscribers on the YouTube. Absolutely fantastic. Love you guys for showing up. Love you guys for engaging with the content, especially the Bloodroof review. It's got over like 500 views, which is not a lot for like, even a moderately sized YouTube. But someone who's like slim pickings like me, I absolutely love to see like videos get like any sort of traction in the algorithm. And the Bloodroof review certainly did. And Bloodroof number 1 is a fantastic book. And I absolutely loved basically everything about that book, except for that 1-2 page spread. I would have preferred for that to be printed like a regular 2-page spread instead of trying to do that cinematic thing that Eric was going for. But I love Choke. I love the Bloodroof's character. I love the fact that there's just this great conflict that's being set up. And of course, I love the cameo of Gooding. Gooding's appearance in Bloodroof, not only did it make sense, it added context to the greater world. And of course, his line at the end, at like basically one of the last lines of that book, was absolutely fantastic. Loved that. It was really, really cool. So yeah, Caffeinated Wolf, or I should say Andrew saying 82 subs is great. It certainly is. So I've got 92 on the YouTube, 82 on I got 82 on the Substack. So Substack is, of course, if you want to support Velvet Room Publishing, become a paid member on Substack, $5 a month. If you are already a Mac on the Rippaverse and you want to just, support indies even more, Velvet Room Publishing is definitely open to being supported. But we've got, let's see, Macabre Derek is saying, still feel I need to up my own artwork for channel work when it comes to Rippaverse stuff. You did that Deer Tick piece. Actually, I think you posted it on we'll share this tab instead. And yeah, I mean, Yaira number 2 is what I want to focus on, because that is what's coming up, because that's what's currently fulfilling. But there's just like Bloodroof just came out very recently. Let's see if we can't get to my Rippaverse community, because you posted it, or I saw this Deer Tech piece. Let's see. Yeah, here you go. This is the piece that you're talking about. This is an absolutely fantastic piece of work, Macabre. And of course, like, I'd love to, if this is like your art, I would hire you as a pencil and inker if I had the money. But yeah, that is definitely something like in the DMs. I love to write. I could definitely write up a comic book script, and we could definitely do something together if you're interested in doing that, because you got the time lapse here. We'll put that up there. Fantastic work. This is fantastic artwork, and I absolutely love this. And this is a really great depiction of Deer Tech. So you definitely pat yourself on the back, but you're always going to be your own biggest critic. And you spent 5 hours on this. I think 5 hours well spent. It's a really good piece of artwork. So definitely going to praise you there. But I definitely wanted to show that off, because I remember seeing that you posted that in the Rippaverse community, which of course, I'm like the guy who created this. I'm the main one. So if you join it, then you have to ask to join. Just make sure that you're not a troll. It's going to just post like random nonsense, which most people haven't been. Let's see. So that 2-page spread will be changed if we do a Bloodroof Omnibus for sure. Yeah, definitely. I think that would be the right call to do. And I think a Bloodroof Omnibus is going to be inevitable, because you're going to have, Bloodroof 2 is announced for this year. So I'm sure Montanay is already deep in drawing that. And of course, with how well Bloodroof number 1 did, I think it made like around $750,000 to $800,000. It's going to be, the fans are going to want more Bloodroof. And he's also saying it's a great piece. So Macabre, do not think that you did bad work with that Deer Tick piece. It was absolutely fantastic. Really does great justice to the Rippaverse as a series. But that is we'll switch back to, I always talk so fast, trying to stay calm, but it's just so exciting, man. With all the stuff that's going on with the Rippaverse, we've got, like I said, Yaira number 2 is fulfilling. This isn't like used to be back with the campaign era, from Isom 1 to Yaira number 1. We had only the campaign, and it took so long to get to a release, and then it was a while before the books actually came out. But now it's just like stuff is coming out like that. So let's see. Panax is saying, when is the Isom Omnibus coming? Perhaps something for Rippaversary in July. I think that would be a little bit too soon. They might be able to do that for Rippaverse Day. Of course, that is in July. I think it's July 11th. That commemorates when Isom 1 launched, and it, by extension, the entire Rippaverse. But doing an ill-advised omnibus would be really, really fun to see. And of course, I remember talking about, I think it was like the first or second episode of the Braxcast, about if Eric released an Isom omnibus, what would you want it to be? And I know Andrew is in the chat, so take notes. I want the ill-advised omnibus, of course, to collect Isom issues 1 through 3. And then once collecting Isom issues 1 through 3, you put in everything from the concept art book with the commentary in it as well. And of course, you add more of Marcos Rios's concept art with commentary for characters that are introduced in Isom 2 and Isom 3. And you have a soft cover, a paperback that's kept in print, mass print, and then of course you have a limited edition hardcover, very similar to, or basically exactly like the Rippaverse Trinity. But that's what I want. Of course, collecting 1 through 3, call it Isom Ill Advised, and have all of the concept art from the concept art book that was released with the Isom 1 campaign, along with concept art from Isom 2 and 3, and of course have that fantastic commentary from Eric July throughout. That is what I would personally want to see for an Isom ill-advised omnibus. So it definitely is something that could happen in July. Of course, all the art for that would be complete, since Isom 3 is most likely probably at the proofing stages at the latest, since it's in its pre-order run, and it's going to fulfill beginning of quarter two. Okay, so Macabre is throwing me some Fury fodder. You can call me Joker, Velvet Room Publishing. That's like my brand, but specifically online, I'm Joker the Fool. My actual name is Benjamin, so you can just call me Ben. If you don't want to call me Joker, but online I have the persona Joker the Fool. But Velvet is just that's my publishing like brand, or that's the brand where I publish videos, I write books. But we'll get into your question. So why does Deer Tick have the same markings as Bloodroof? They are broken mirrors of each other visually. So what's the connection, especially in the forearm tattoo? So let me check my copy of Bloodroof, see what you are talking about. I think that's a pretty interesting thing. Because we see you got those basic forearm tattoos there. And then you see, yeah, I see what you're talking about there. So probably, I mean, if I had to say, is that since Bloodroof attracts demons, she probably has demonic corruption that she deals with, and that probably could be that. It also could be like Freemasonry. Of course, there's a lot of like cults associated with I guess the Christian role against either if you're like part of the heretical groups that have risen around the beliefs of Christianity. You've got the Gnostics, you've got like the Nazarenes, you've got of course like the Mormons that came in the 19th century, the Seventh-day Adventists. There's a lot of people who have used the religion, or I should say the scriptures and the traditions of Christianity, of the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church, and they've of course corrupted and used it for their own means. So it could be something in relation to that. But most likely, since I believe Deer Tick is a greater demon, and greater demon, if I'm getting that correctly, and greater demon, and it's most likely going to be the fact that Bloodroof has some demonic energy. And that tattoo is indicative of that. But that's probably something we're going to find out as the series develops, which is why, I'm so excited for Bloodroof 2 and then Bloodroof 3. And of course, the Saskas, they probably have like Bloodroof 200 planned out in their heads. So they know everything. But we've got some stuff in the chat. Garfield is saying, hail to me, hail to you, Garfield. Glad you could make this one. And Zay Comics is, of course, here as well. Wants to call it the Isom bus, which is a bit of a weird way to say it, but that'll be a good pun. But I still think just calling it Isom ill-advised, because the Riververse is supposed to be a serious comic book company. So Isom bus. So you appreciate it. I appreciate you, Macabre, for your great art, being a part of the community, and of course giving me great questions. Of course, all of you guys for being here in the chat. Got 6 people here in the chat right now. Let's see. Whoa, she does just checked my copy. Yeah, and I didn't notice that too. So that was a pretty good. That was a very small detail that Macabre caught with the tattoo. So yeah, it probably, like I said, probably has to do with the demonic association, because Bloodroof attracts demons. That's part of the curse of the Bloodroof family line. So it's going to have to do something with demonic energy, most likely. But there's just so many things you can do with a character like Bloodroof, and the fact that you're having this, like, I would say Christian lore, using a whole bunch of terminologies for it, but the story is established in, the Old and the New Testament, and tying that into a comic book universe and mixing it in with the fact that you've got a blood witch that hunts demons and devils. Really interesting. Cannot wait to see how that goes down in the ongoing series. Student of God is saying this is a good stream. Really appreciate it. CG is here or CJ, I should say, is here in the chat saying hail to you too. Garfield's Bizarre Adventure is saying Bloodroof has stated that her family carries a curse. Perhaps her bloodline takes power from Cain's bloodline. There's a theory. Yeah, and I mean, I've said this before. In the first Braxcast Live, I was talking about how I was talking about that is specifically, that the first couple pages of Bloodroof narrates Genesis chapter 4. Of course, that is the story of Cain and Abel. It happens right after the fall of man. And we do know from Genesis chapter 4 that Cain does have a wife. And we do know in Genesis chapter 6 that the giants that lived in the days of before the flood were there after. That's the implication. And in Numbers 13:33, the Nephilim are said to have appeared while the Israelites, or while spies from the Israelites who came from the Exodus are spying out the land of Canaan. That is modern day Israel, basically, like Israel, Gaza, Palestine, not Lebanon. Lebanon's a bit to the north, but Canaan and land of Canaan. That is where that's modern day Israel, basically Israel and Palestine. And then you've got Lebanon, which is a bit to the north, which is still around today as Lebanon. But of course, Canaan is referring to the Phoenicians. So if you know the Phoenicians is more of a historical term. So the Phoenicians would have thought of themselves as Canaanites, in the same way that the Byzantines would have thought of themselves as Romans. Like Byzantine is more of a historical term rather than one that was used in the contemporarily. So a Byzantine in like the year 900 wouldn't call themselves a Byzantine, he would call himself a Roman, because they were the Eastern Roman Empire, and they were for basically until the 15th century, 1453, fall of Constantinople, and then the Ottomans take over Constantinople, and they're are administering I guess ruling over what was the former Eastern Roman Empire, and they call themselves the Caesars of Rome. Like, I think Tsar Rome, if I'm saying that correctly, because they were ruling over land that had been under Roman control for literally millennia. But let's see. So Cigarfield's Bizarre Adventure is saying the Bible also states that the Watchers come down from heaven and had relations with humans, and their offsprings were giants. Yes, I believe that is narrated in Genesis as well. Let's see. Where is the Bloodroof family estate? Seems too swampy to be Texas. I'm not sure exactly where it is. And Bloodroof does fly. I believe Othello is the name of her dragon. But I don't think it says specifically where the Bloodroof Manor is. Of course, Texas is an absolutely massive state, so it could very well be in Texas, but we do not know exactly where. Excuse me. Let's see. So, because it just says Bloodroof Manor, so it doesn't say like a specific place. So it could be like, yeah, I was literally going to say Louisiana. We're like one mind, Garfield. So we're on the same wavelength. The Caffeinated Wolf, Andrew, is confirming that it is not in Texas. So I would probably go and say it would be Louisiana, maybe Alabama, or maybe even like northern Florida. There's a ton of places it could be, but we don't know exactly where it is. So that's not something that's confirmed. If you go to the page where it's, where it is in Bloodroof Manor and that modern day, where you've got the scene with Bloodroof and her father, and then of course she goes to Forest Park, and then the rest of the story takes place on the outskirts of Forest Park and within Forest Park. So very, very interesting there. I already read through that comment. So, man, I mean, there's just so much stuff to talk about. And of course, you guys are bringing enough stuff like Bloodroof, and we talked about Chadran and Santwan. Like I said, I think Chadran would win that very easily. But we got a comment from John Constant, who's betting Dokkan ends up being the reason for the first major Rippaverse crossover. They seem to be setting him up as the Thanos or Darkseid level threat. I agree with you. So I don't think crossover is necessarily the right word to use. I mean, I think, it's not an unapt term to use, but I think the way I like to think about it is the big event. I think the first big event of the Rippaverse is going to involve Dokkan, as you observe, John, especially if you've read the end of Bloodroof #1. They're really very heavily alluding to that. And of course, we've got Dokkan's archives as well. And that's been since Isom #1, because the first set launched with Isom #1, if you are aware. That Dokkan is definitely going to be essential into upping the ante of the Rippaverse, so turning it from a street level affair into something much more cosmic, and like a Thanos or a Darkseid level threat. So yeah, I definitely think that is good. But Panic's making the observation that Dokkan seems more like the Monitor than Thanos or Darkseid. I guess Monitor is a comic book character from Marvel or DC. I definitely am a bit of very much so a newbie. We got Nick Weiser in the chat here. And of course, I will put the Let's see the stream, the link here. So if you want to come on, you want to gab with me again, Nick, you are more than welcome to. Of course, anybody is as well. So we do have Yaira number 2, which is fulfilling now. Of course, I'm getting it tomorrow. Really excited for this book. And we got absolutely beautiful art. Deborah Carita is a fantastic artist. And of course, when you've got, like Yaira, the 6'1" blonde, frosty femme fatale bombshell to draw, it's just going to be fantastic. Love Yaira. And of course, I got the Yaira statue right next to me. It's absolutely beautiful. So Panex is saying that Monitor is DC. He's DC's version of the Watcher, which I guess Watcher is Marvel. I really need to get a couple of omnibuses from my LCS and just read. But I've got so many indie comics to do. Of course, the Rippaverse is really schedule is keeping me really busy these days. Let's see. Nick can't come on today, but we got to do it again. I'll have to bring you on my channel too. Definitely open to that. It's all good to do for me to do this like solo. I definitely do not mind. But we got Garfield saying that he's thinking that Dokkan is more of a neutral entity. Chadran seems more like a malevolent entity. I definitely agree with you there. It's just that I don't think Chadran is going to be like this Thanos character where he just comes in like the entire universe is cowing to his will. He seems to be much, much more low level than that. But considering the fact he speaks another worldly language, he most likely is alien. Could it be like an Omni-Man situation? Like, you have the Viltrum Empire that's tasked with taking over Earth, and Chadran is like there's a whole bunch of like Chadrans or Chadran species on some planet somewhere, and they just sent him to Earth to take it over. That's definitely a possibility, but I don't think Chadran is that. He's definitely an evil, malevolent entity, especially with his Dokkan card establishing that he has no moral compass. He'll just kill, and he'll just kill. Anybody, doesn't matter. But I don't think. I think for him, I think he's going to be like a grunt to a much higher up character, and that probably would be the character that would be like Thanos, that just wants to basically like genocide the entire universe. And you're going to have like Isom and teaming up with Zalen, and you're going to have them both teaming up with Yaira and Alpha Core to stop this cosmic level event. But I think that's going to be down the line. It's probably going to be at least a year. We definitely need more books to justify having an event, but I definitely think Dokkan is going to be at the center of that. Chadran seems more demonic than alien, at least to me, is mentioned in the Dokkan card. But here's the thing: it could be both. Like aliens in the Rippaverse there could be like demonic aliens. Of course, Zalen seems to be a character that's good, but you could definitely have like the demons and the aliens being not necessarily one and the same, but being you have like you think of like a big circle, and you've got demons. And then you've got alien inside of that, if that makes any sense. So, like, if you make a Venn diagram, you can have like aliens, and there can be demonic aliens, and Chadran could be one of those demonic aliens. I definitely don't think he's from Earth. That is what I'm getting at. But he definitely could be not from Earth, and he could still be a demon, or he could be not from Earth, come to Earth, and then get not corrupted, but use demonic energy to become even more powerful. So Panex is asking, why does Dokkan care about Darren? And that is a good question. So Darren Fontano is a very interesting character. And it's not because he's super powered, it's because of the amount of control that he has. So in Isom number 1, I believe, he has this monologue about empires, and empires constantly being built. And this is what he views himself as. He views himself as a criminal emperor. And he's got, Club Merc and everything that's extended with that. And the amount of influence he's been able to gain, he's been able to influence politicians. He's got so much of the city under his thumb. He's not as powerful as he would like to be, and as you think he would be, especially in Isom number 2. Lincoln does hand his butt to him on a platter, but he is a powerful, influential character, and he's got a lot of charisma, and he's got a lot of pull in the criminal world, and that's why Dokkan cares about him, because he's going to be the one that's involving himself in the affairs of Exups, and thereby, by observing Darren Fontano, not only will he learn more about him and what makes him tick, and the things that gives him his abilities to influence people, he's also going to find out more about other Exups like Santwan. So that would be my answer to that. So Mike has bad knees is Not convinced that Lincoln is a good guy. I mean, definitely being the CEO of a massive corporation, I'm sure he would have ulterior motives. So that's something to be seen. So he could be more like a chaotic neutral, if to use the D&D term. And also, thanks for being in the chat. Mike has bad knees. Absolutely fantastic. And I know you're a big time fan of the Rippaverse. I know you're on the members forum. You've interacted with my posts, so it's nice to see you in this live stream. So Andrew is asking an even deeper question: what interest does Pokemon have in any of these characters? And that is something that we're only going to have to read more to find out. And Garfield here is saying that Zalen definitely seems to have a personal code from what I've gleaned from the trailer and description, perhaps a lawful neutral type. And I agree with you there. I think that is the I think that's what Zalen's character is. I think he's like a lawful neutral. Like he's not necessarily someone who's going to go out of his way to save people, but he's someone that wants to have an orderly, peaceful universe. And of course, all of these aliens running around, and of course, whatever decimated his home planet of Hadrian 4 is stuff that goes against his code. And that's why he has that law: what kills must die. But of course, Mike and Joe, I'm sure, have cooked up really something good in the 80 pager of Zalen. And hopefully we get more Zalen. Maybe we get a limited series. Of course, Andrew has been gone on the record saying that if we do get it, Joe is going to be the penciler for it because he's not going to let anybody else do that. So we'll see what happens with Zalen. But definitely really excited to get the first Zalen book. But I figure let's watch the Yaira #2 trailer. Why not? Since we are supposed to be hyping up Yaira #2, but we're just nerding out about the Rippaverse in general. Absolutely love to see you guys just asking me questions and just shooting random stuff about the Rippaverse. But let's watch the Yaira #2 trailer.
The battle is over. I have won. Yaira is dead. But so are the 3 visitors. They were fools to follow me here. They did not know this world, and I was able to use it to my advantage. I managed to live amongst these humans for eons without my true nature being exposed. Stefania changed all that. She's my flesh and my blood. She is like me. I could not save her, Abuela, and now she hates me. I'm alone in this world. Anyone who gets close to me dies. No, Yaira must stay dead. I have searched for him for years in this place. His existence has become something of myth and legend, leading me to believe he perished long ago, or abandoned this cruel world for another where life is not so fleeting. When I had given up all hope, when I was ready to die and join my loved ones in Valhalla, when I stopped looking for him, he found me. Neptune lives, and I will find him. I have to. If only I could break free of these endless nightmares that have plagued me since my last battle. Every night, I die, and I watch my family die. Over and over again. My greatest fear is that somehow, some way, with all his dark magics, he survived. My old friend, the one who betrayed, the Black Sorcerer, Magus Newmite.
Okay, that was the Yaira 2 trailer. Very interesting, and of course, implying that Magus Newmite is coming back. Basically, Magus Newmite survive somehow. That's going to be the most interesting thing to see. And again, I agree with you on this. Pretty wild that Yaira lets people think that she's dead. Of course, there's got to be some reason behind it. So we'll see what happens with that. It's going to be really, really interesting. So we've got, let's see. So hopefully we haven't seen the last of Magus Newmite. I love the nightmare fuel he presented and showcases the alien occult. Yes, I agree with you, Macabre. And of course, if you've read his Dokumon card, you know he's the leader of the Void Scarabs. So the Void Scarabs are like this international, or not international, intergalactic is the better term to use, group of wizards, and he's like the head of it. He has an alien princess bride. His character is inherently interesting. So hopefully we see more Nagus Newmite. Like I said, hopefully we see more Magus Newmite. But let's go back to the let's see, because I left the freaking Yaira 2 collection page. I X'd out of it. So we're going to go back to it, and we're going to present, share screen, do that. We got Yaira 2. Also, I think Neptune thing is a link to Norfolka. Definitely could be, because Norfolka, you've got Valadon and Takari. They're definitely gods. So there's this pantheon of gods that exists within the Repaverse. I think Neptune is a part of that. Whether or I don't think in Yaira number 2 we're going to have like a direct reference to Norfolka, but we're going to get more insight into this pantheon of gods that exists in the Rippaverse, and Neptune is going to be a really good peer of that. And of course, we're going to have that. We're going to have that. We're going to have that insight into much more of the supernatural, especially since it's going to be concerning Atlantis. But since I have the IR2 page back up, hail. We're going to go through the covers, and the most interesting cover here is going to be, we'll open the image in the new tab. It's cover B, and let's see if I can't, we'll share this tab instead. And who do we see on the retro cover? And of course, this cover is done by Joe Bennett. So this is Joe Bennett's cover for Yaira number 2, cover B. It is the retro cover. You see that beautiful sanction by the Rippaverse Code of Ethics. And who do we see? None other than Magus Newmite. And I think we also see Yanessa and Yantoni. So all three of them managed to survive, is the implication on this cover. So let's see. Unfortunately, I don't fit in with the Dokumon card, so I rip info from the books. Macabre, I've got you hooked up. So if you go to my YouTube channel and you search in Dokumon, you'll find me going through all of the Dokumon cards. Of course, I do it in 3 separate episodes, but I've gone through all 3 of the episodes. And of course, I have scanned them all, but I'm not I'm not sure if I'll post them. But if you go into me in the DMs, I can give you the backs of the cards if you want that information. Because I'm very much happy to share that out with someone like you who's a genuine fan. Let's see, Garfield's Bizarre Adventure. It's possible Magus Newmite has a phylactery, since he is a magic-based character where his soul can escape death should his body get destroyed. So I guess you're saying that he would have like some way, like if his physical body dies, his soul would go somewhere, and then he would be able to get a new body. Definitely a possibility. This reminds me of an interesting thing. You have Duplicate from Invincible, and this is not at all the same thing, but her power is that she can clone herself. I think she has a twin. I forget what the twin's name is, but basically what they always do is they have like a character, one of them in like a safe house. So when you've got like all of them dead, that one can survive and just come back, and that is basically what they do, or that's what she does. So kind of like something like that, where you've got a way where you can survive your bodily death, basically. Garfield, or I should say Macabre Dark, is saying I think they missed the bug that served as his phylactery. So this basically the argument is that Magus Newmite was probably, when he was fighting with Yaira, had like maybe like one little bug that flew off and was in like miles and miles away from, I think it was like Iceland, where the final scene of Yaira number 1 happens, and that is how he survives. Definitely could be a possibility. I honestly think that is a good. I think that's a good theory. But of course, we're going to find out soon. I'm sure some of you guys have already found out, because Yaira number 2 is fulfilling, or it's already fulfilled for a lot of people. I'm getting it tomorrow. Of course, I'll be reviewing it tomorrow. Really excited for this one. This is, of course, a beautiful cover. I'll be showing this off physically. Love these retro covers. And I think you got Yanessa, Yantoni, you got Magus Newmite. So I think they're probably all going to come back. And they're going to, of course, not be happy to be seeing her, because she basically burned them all to a crisp. Man, that was really, really cool. at the end of Yaira number one. Let's see. Maybe Arrakis is really dead and it's just in Yaira's number head. That is a possibility. I think that would be a little bit disappointing, considering how cool of a character Magus is. But of course, she is, of course, or she's haunted by her past and of course everything that she's done recently. Of course, all the things she's done throughout the centuries, and of course, she had a past before she even came to Earth. So she's been on Earth for centuries, right? She lived to see her great grandchildren die of old age, and she was a probably like an ancient entity before even coming to Earth. So she's got probably millennia of memories, and a lot of them are definitely not positive. So that's what haunts her. So that could definitely be like a failing in her own mind, especially with everything that went down with Stefania in issue number one. So that is a possibility. Wild speculation in the Rippaverse is Macabre Derek's jam. I agree with you. I'm absolutely loving this. Mike has bad news. He has to check his mailbox. Maybe you'll have a surprise. Hopefully you do. If not, it'll be coming soon. I was in so deep. I was thinking of doing a series in universe, going through more Wild ones for fun. Yeah, definitely. What are you thinking about doing? That's like fan related to the Rippaverse. I would go ahead and just do it. That's what I just started the Braxcast because I was like, well, there's just so much stuff with the Rippaverse, and this was in February of last year. That's when around the time Horseman was announced. I was like, okay, there's enough stuff with the Rippaverse where I can just podcast about it every week, and I've been doing that for over a year now. Now I'm live streaming about it. Absolutely loving everything that I'm doing, and of course, it's even better that you guys come up and show up and have fun with me. He could be really dead, but it would feel like a waste of one of the more interesting recurring characters. I agree. That's why I hope these characters, Yanessa and Yantoni and Magus Newmite, they all come back and they survive the events of Yaira number one, because they're interesting characters. And of course, the implications that the characters have for the larger world of the Rippaverse, or the larger universe of the Rippaverse, is really interesting. And of course, these characters could cross over with Zalen, they could cross over with Dirty Deeds. There's just so many angles you could go with these characters that I don't think the Saskas want to just chuck them in the trash with Yaira number one. Let's see. No spoilers for Great War of Separation, as I have not read it, but some have proposed that Solari may be older than he appears, maybe in his 70s. I honestly cannot answer that question without spoiling Great War Separation number one. So I don't want to say that, but yeah, I don't. I think that's more in the realm of being a theory rather than something that's actually the case. But that's all I'll say about that, since you said no spoilers for Great War Separation. El D'Augusto, I haven't seen you in here before, just like a monocle emoji. Absolutely love to see you in the chat. We got 13 viewers here. I think it's like the most I've had on a live stream. So hopefully you guys find me at least somewhat entertaining. But definitely appreciative that you guys are here. So Garfield's Bizarre Adventure. Best part in Yaira for me was discovering Yaira's past and learning why she was interested in Stefania. Yeah, her past is absolutely interesting. So freebie, Brian Solari is much older than he looks visually. So I was wrong about that. Yeah, I mean, certainly. That certainly can be the case. So I'm sure with Great War Separation 2, we're going to find out more about Brian Solari, because he was teased as a character in the first one, and we get the beginning of his arc for Great War Separation. Of course, what happens in Great War Separation is going to set up his him forming the Alpha Corps, basically. Let's see. Wouldn't be hanging around if I didn't find you entertaining. That's a very apt point. I'm glad you do, Macabre. It's just that, like, I don't know. I've got a lot of self-doubt, but I still make the content anyways, because I don't know. I got nothing better to do. So El D'Augusto says, Student of God recommended you, so I have to give the stream a shot. Well, I appreciate that. Hopefully I can keep you guys around. So I guess we'll go through the rest of the covers for Yaira number one. I'll share this tab instead. So this is Yaira number 2, cover A, of course, done by Kanan Waite, showing Yaira underwater. Of course, we've got this sword here. You've got Neptune's trident, or is like, I guess Neptune is the Latin term for Poseidon, because all the Roman and the Greek gods are basically the same. They're just referred to because it's the Greco-Roman world, and Hellenization, or the Hellenistic world is basically something that has Greek and Roman aspects to it. So they're basically very compatible, and they've because they're so close to each other. They were administered by the same empire for so long with the Roman Empire. And of course, Greece, when it was part of the Byzantine, the Eastern Roman Empire, it was like their main center, aside from Constantinople and Anatolia, which is modern day Turkey. But anyway, I love talking about history, especially the Roman Empire. But this is a really fantastic cover. Of course, I love Kanan's artwork, and this was colored by Marcos Martin. So, of course, we already went over the B cover, so we're going to go over that C cover. We'll switch. I keep. Let's see. I keep going and doing that. So we'll go and do window. We'll do this window here, and then we'll add it to the stage. And this is Yaira number 2, cover C, done by the fantastic Will Conrad, who of course is the artist for all the Dokumon cards, and of course he is the artist for Gooding the Polymath, which is a fantastic book. Hopefully get more Gooding. And I remember John, if he's still in the chat, he mentioned a bit ago, about Mike Barron's, I believe it's Delta Force, that was talked about in the Rip Reveal. Not confirmed for 2025, but they're a bit of a heel to the Alpha Core, and he's really interested in seeing where they go. And I'm also really interested as well, especially since Mike Barron is going to write it. He's going to write something really juicy. Can't wait to read that. So Garfield's Bizarre Adventure, loved the Great War. His only criticism is that it needed Spanish translation from some of the word bubbles. I could still figure out on my own what they said, but it was still unnecessary. I agree. I mentioned that in my review, and I actually got a comment on my review from a native Spanish speaker saying that it made sense to him, but in hindsight, it's like, if you can't speak Spanish, it's going to be a bit confusing. So yeah, if they do a reprint having, like I said, having an asterisk and then a note saying that this is being spoken in Spanish and having it in English is what would make sense. So if they do a reprint, if they collect, I'm sure Great War Separation will be collected as an omnibus. And at the rate they're putting out these books, you're going to have, Delta Base. Delta Base. That's the series. Let's see. Russia also considers itself the heirs of the Byzantine Empire, hence why they adopted the double-edged symbol. I mean, I guess that makes some sort of sense considering their proximity. But the modern day Russia, the origins of their civilization is the Kievan Rus, and I think before then, I forget, but you've got like steppe people. You have like the Indo-Aryans and the Indo-Iranians, and I forget exactly. I think it starts with like a Y, and those are like the most like ancient people that lived in that region that we know about. So yeah, I'm sure they can consider themselves like heirs of the Russian Empire, especially since Orthodoxy is big in Russia. You've got the Russian Orthodox Church, and that has its roots in its apostolic succession to the Eastern Orthodox Church. So they definitely have those religious ties, and probably decent amount of those cultural ties, considering their alphabet is Cyrillic, like the Greek alphabet. So there's definitely a lot of cultural exchange that happened there. But their civilization is the Kievan Rus, which was, I think began with like Ivan the Terrible. If I'm getting my Russian history correctly, which decent chance I'm not. El Augusto says that Garfield always has the best super chats on Alyssa's clip. Yes, I do love Garfield. You mean the one that made EVS spurred out on Timcast? Yeah. Oh man. I mean, I watched a lot of Pod Awful's stuff. The stream he did with VVS and the stream he did with Eric, and I don't want to get into the drama stuff, but that was very entertaining. So yeah, Comic Skate is in a really, really interesting spot now, but it's a dumpster fire. But you know what isn't a dumpster fire? It's the Rippaverse, because the Rippaverse is actually making comic books, and I get to talk about the actual comic books. Who would have thunk about that? It's smart. We're covering niches for world building, with the Rippaverse covering street level, super science, some mysticism and horror, and now cosmic stuff and a bit of world history. Yes, there's just so much stuff going on with the Rippaverse. I'm wearing my Great War of Separation shirt, my young Brian Solari shirt right now. So there's just so much going on with the Rippaverse. And of course, as someone who, like, from day one, when Isom 1 launched, I was committed to being a fan of the Rippaverse. This is a weird thing, but I was really invested. I was like, I see what Eric wants to do with the Rippaverse, and he's actually doing it, and it's so beautiful to see. Yes, making books. Why not a 6-hour drama stream? And this is the thing. Why can't we just spend 8 hours talking about how somebody else is doing the thing that you're supposed to be doing in a way that you don't approve of. That's the perfect way to spend your time. And it would make, but I don't want to get into that. But yeah, oh man, it's just sad. I was a big supporter of all caps. And that's one of the things that got me into the indie comic scene. It was like beginning of 22, and then of course Eric launches Isom and the Rippaverse, and I was really off to the races. But I got into CG, and I got into a lot of this through all caps and reading Cyberfrog. So it's just sad to see him doing this instead of actually getting his books out. But again, I don't want to be like, oh, this guy is so awful, so bad. I don't want to like stir the pot or anything like that, but I just want to talk about the books and who's putting out the books. Rippaverse is putting out the books. Let's see. So Rippaverse has fans treating it like a chance to have book club style discussions, and others just grumbling up drama, ho ho. The throat goat indeed. Yeah, no, I mean, that's the sad thing is that, I mean, there's a lot of hemming and hawing from Comicsgate about making it about comics and how the Rippaverse is somehow like ruining the comic book industry. Like the American comic book industry was in this perfect, awesome spot before Eric came in and started doing his business. But that's the whole thing, is that it wasn't, and I think the Rippaverse is an actual net positive for the comic book industry, especially considering the fact that I can podcast about it every week. And you guys in the chat here, we're not really, I mean, we're getting into this a little bit, but most of this has been about we're talking about Bloodroof, we're talking about Chadran and Santwan, we're talking about Yaira, we're talking about we're talking about Magus Newmite, talking about all these characters, and I mean, Great War Separation as well. And of course, talking about some site stuff with the business itself, the membership site and how close we're arguing that Horseman series. There's just so much stuff to talk about with the reverse. Let's see. So the Macabre Dark says the reason he doesn't do drama posts is because he figures everyone else has it covered. Want to focus on the world, books, and the theorizing. I'm wholeheartedly with you on that. I did write a piece, a 4,000 word article called Rippaverse Apologetics, which really goes into all of the narratives that surround the Rippaverse. Basically, at the time, there's been more stuff that's arisen, but I wrote basically what I consider to be the critical mass. You read this and you'll have like the narratives and like someone who isn't absolutely like negatively enthralled with those narratives, basically saying here's why they're wrong. So I lay it out and I say why they're wrong in that piece. It's called Rippaverse Apologetics. You can read that on my Substack. You can read that on my Twitter account, Velvet Room Publishing, or at Velvet Room Pub. If you're interested in that. But I did actually get a comment when I put that piece out on my Substack saying that someone got into the books, and when he was telling people that he liked the books, they were like giving him crap for it. It's like, there are people who, if you like Godlike, if you like Cyberfrog, if you like Billy Tucci's books, or I would say Dan Fraga's books, but I don't think people have that book. But anyway, if you like Comicsgate, if you like those books, I'm not going to hold that against you. And I think some of the stuff is actually pretty good and compelling, which is why I got into Comicsgate in the first place. It's just that, that same grace that I would give to you, you wouldn't give to me when I say, hey, I've read Isom and I like it. Like, I don't think these are like YouTuber this isn't like YouTube merch. I think these are actual comic books put out by an actual comic book business. Let's see. Andrew loves the enthusiasm and support. We love and appreciate all of you for your enthusiasm and support. Definitely echo that sentiment. And of course, the Rippaverse staff, the crew, has been nothing but nice to me and the rest of the fan base. So absolutely love to see people that respect the fans. I wonder when we'll see the next fully animated trailer. I missed those. Mike has bad knees has said, yes, I've made that observation, is that a lot of the trailers we've gotten have been pretty, I wouldn't say cobbled together is the right word, but they've used comic book art and they've been very simplistic. But this leads me to believe that Rippaverse Studios is working on something big. And we'll see that maybe this year. Of course, Andrew knows, knows, and I'll just say NDA. But hopefully we get like a nice big animated project from Rippaverse Studios, and that's what they're working on. But yeah, it is a bit disappointing that we haven't had a nice big juicy animated trailer, especially even for Isom Free. I think that would have justified having an animated trailer, but like I said, they're probably working on something big at Rippaverse Studios, so we'll see what they're cooking up eventually. And of course, Andrew is coming in with that NDA there. So there are plenty of people who don't like Eric July or care for his comics, but even they all think this drama stuff is something. And that's the thing, is that if you're like if you're getting into comics into comics and you see like all this stuff that's going on, it's going to turn you off from it in general. Like I don't think anybody who engages in the drama farming can really see that it's only going to be a win in terms of the people who are already in your circle. It's going to be a very select group of people. So that's the thing I find ridiculous about it. It's not a positive for the industry, but of course, I would say the people who are really deeply engaged in this, they don't care about comic books. They care about the super chat money. And El Gusto says, ultimate drama is bad for business unless you have nothing but drama going for you. And I echoing what I'm saying exactly. But talking about the comics, it would be cool to get a one shot from the view of Cedric Gaucho to show how the world in Forest Park changed through the years. He was my favorite bit of Isom 1 when he implied a lot. I definitely agree with you, Aldo Gusto. Cedric Gaucho, really interesting character, especially reading Invincible. I believe his name is Art, who makes the suits for Omni-Man, Kid Omni-Man, Invincible. It definitely reminds me of that character. So having like a nice like 96-page one shot that explains like the origins of Cedric Gaucho would be a really good thing. So Andrew, when you talk to Eric next, like get on that. But that would be a really interesting one to do. And I think like a 96-pager of the Cedric Gaucho origin story would be a really cool thing to see. So I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. So yeah, let's leave. Actually, we'll remove this, and I'll just bring this up here because I've got my main monitor here, and my second one is up there. Kind of like bending my neck, but let's see. Wrestling store. I think you meant to say wrestling Panax. So yeah, an SSWL story would be pretty cool. But you know, of course, that would cover Larry Shungite, and I think people like Larry Shungite, and I do too. Introduced in Isom number 2, and I believe he has a Dokemon card in the third set, and I went over that. So we'll see with Larry Shungite, but having like an SSWL series would be one thing. But I think what El Augusto was getting at is having a book specifically focusing on Cedric, because Cedric and the SSWL are two separate things. So you would want to have preferably both, right? Having that Cedric Gaucho one shot, and of course, probably having at least the limited series that is just called the Southern Style Wrestling League, SSWL, and that covers basically how the SSWL became a thing and why it's a thing and how it ties into the Xeps in the larger Rippaverse. Let's see. So a friend of mine dropped by the meetup to get Eric to sign a copy of Yaira for me. He treated them well and leveled up my respect for him. So I trust when he said it's about the books, not the drama. Yeah, wholeheartedly agree. I haven't really had, and I've been following Eric since before he launched Rippaverse, and I've never had a reason to think of Eric as this like scheming fraudster or anybody he's associated himself with in a business sense. To be like, you know, this bad person. I interviewed Andrew twice, who's currently in the chat, and, you know, he was very nice to me, very cordial with me. Of course, Kara, customer service queen, has been very, very good to me. Even better, because I had gotten the beanie from Bloodroof, and I got that merch order before my day one order, so I was a bit hecked about that. And I thought the beanie was misprinted. It wasn't. I just didn't fold it. And she told me to fold it, and she was really nice to me. She said, "Oh man, Joker, you're an absolute idiot. Like you're not folding your damn beanie." But she didn't say that to me. She actually was nice to me when she shouldn't have been. She said, "You're an idiot. It's folded wrong, or it's not folded." That's the thing. But see, El DeGusto saying he reminded me of that Invincible and other similar characters like Spider-Man and other comics with tailors. Yes, wholeheartedly agree on that. So Eric said in a question of the day response that y'all may get that Cedric story. I hadn't seen that. I've been really, I need to watch those questions of the day. Definitely need to. But if he said that, it's hopefully we get that Cedric story. But again, I am on here saying that it is something that the fans want is a Cedric story, and all the Gusto agrees with me. I'm saying that, so I think that's enough to get the project greenlit if it hasn't been already. Let's see. So, oh yeah, Wolf, my man, this is great news. Oh yeah, so he's talking to Andrew about that. So Macabre says, being Canadian Ian, the beanie came in handy in February. Yes, it does get cold up there in the Great White North. I am in New York. I'm not much of a beanie guy, but it's definitely nice to have. And I'm sure next winter, because I'm going to be moving further up north this summer, and that's where I'll be staking my tent for the next for the foreseeable future. So that beanie is probably going to serve me well in the next winter. So Scorpio is just putting those eyes there. So who's the character you think everyone is sleeping on? Me, it's Santwan. Well, I named this show the Braxcast. So I'm going to say it's Jeremiah Braxwell. He's the Visor Chad. He's the best character in the Rippaverse. So I think he's one character. He's a strong silent type. So if of characters that we've seen, probably Braxwell is definitely up there in characters that are being slept on. Cedric is certainly one. I think Lincoln is another one. He's pretty interesting. And then if I had to round it off, we had that new one, Master Furion. I think he's going to be pretty interesting in the ongoing series for Bloodroof. That's just off the top of my head. But I would say probably Braxwell, Cedric Gaucho, and then let's see, Furion are probably going to be the characters for me. And of course, I think Santwan is definitely an interesting character. But I think, to me, this is, I guess I'm a bit biased because I'm still thinking of the Isom 1 days where Santwan was one of the few named characters that we knew about. And there's been so many other characters introduced since. But Scorpio is making the. Alexander Crowley. That's what I mean. I think he's called Master Furion as well. But he is Alexander Crowley. See, so Scorpio is saying it's way too early to say which characters is being slept on. We are not even to issue 5 for any of the characters, and honestly is a pretty good observation to make. We're still really early days in the Rippaverse, both as a company and definitely in terms of the narratives that are being established. I mean, we only have one number 2 that's been out for a decent amount of time. That's Isom number 2. Of course, Yaira number 2 has just released. The fans are still getting the books, and of course, the fans haven't chewed for the books. I haven't read the book yet, even. So we're still getting that one out to the fan base, and then. We haven't even gotten that yet. We know Yaira number 3 is in the works based on that Isom 1 campaign goal. In fact, we'll go to let's see here. We'll go to we'll add to the stage. That's my StreamYard there. Actually, share the screen. We'd go for window and that. Go back there, and then we'll go and we'll check out the Isom free collection because why not? We're just talking about random stuff, and of course, Grey War Separation 2 is next week, guys. We're going to be able to buy that. We just got Grey War Separation 1. It's just fantastic. I love this. I know I'm a bit overwhelmed, but we'll add this to the stage. And we see here $475,000, 7,810 books sold. So the Isom free campaign is doing quite well. And I did see Edwin Boyette do a comparison of the Isom free campaign or collection, whatever term you want to use, comparing it to the Comicsgate crowdfunders, and it's doing really well in comparison to those. But regardless, I think Isom number 3, and I made this point before, is that there's much more to the Rippaverse than Isom. So the fan base is distributing themselves amongst what interests them, whether that's Yaira or Great War Separation or Zalen or even the back catalog. I'm sure there are people who would have bought Isom free but were more intrigued by Horseman or Bloodroof, and they're buying those from the store. And those back catalog sales is what people are spending their money on rather than getting in on this collection, especially if they want to start with something, and Isom number 3 is like, it's a number 3, so you want to start with number 1. But we see here Yaira number 3 cover reveals are going to happen at $500,000, and this campaign is definitely going to get to 500K, considering we got 46 days left to go on that. So I think it's going to make that 500K milestone. Hopefully we get to 750 to get that individual Dokumon card, and I think that with Student of God said in the first stream I did, the random Rippaverse Rambling stream, that they need to sell individual Dokumon cards. And I think I'm not inherently against that, especially if you did reprints of characters that were established with different art and sold those individually. I'm not inherently against that. It's just that one shipping out, like it'd be like $5 and probably like $8 to ship it out, so it's going to be about $20 anyway. But if you did like free packs and you charge like 10 or $15 for those, it would make it more affordable for people to do that. Let's see. So I'm interested in Dirty Deed's story. That could be the Ripper versus Firefly, and I believe that is Edwin who is in the chat, going under story time with friends. Yeah, she's saying to Edwin. So yeah, you do good work in terms of your commentary on Comics Day. So I appreciate that. We got this chat from El Gusto saying, I do think Santwan did steal the show, being a flamboyant villain. Braxwell seemed to spark a lot of conversation because people liked his style and name. That is spot on commentary there. Macabre saying we're all overwhelmed. Definitely. Let's see. It is. So, yes, nice to have you in the chat, Edwin. Definitely appreciate you for watching. So, of course, Yaira number 3, we're going to get cover reveals for that, and Search number 1. Of course, Zalen doesn't really matter since the collection's been launched, right? So we have all the covers revealed for that. But yeah, this is what really interests me is the 750,000 milestone is to get that Dokemon card. Not that I wouldn't love the Isom action figure or the new concept art book or a full line of statues or getting the Eric sketch, but I love the Dokemon cards. It's probably one of my favorite things about the Reverse are the Dokemon cards, other than the books, are the Dokemon cards. And it definitely, yeah, I think that Dirty Deed story could definitely be, it could be like Firefly, it could be like Battlestar Galactica, like a really like sci-fi that's more um less science fiction and more of a harder less high science fantasy, so less Star Wars and more something like Firefly or Starship Troopers or whatever. I'm not super familiar with those types of things. Let's see. So let's see. Yes, yo, Edwin. Okay, yes, I will put in the link again. So if anybody wants to come into the chat and gab with me, Edwin, Garfield, Andrew. Yeah, so Andrew is saying that Dirty Deeds is a blend of Firefly, Guardians of the Galaxy, Star Trek, and more. Yeah, I'm sure Caro has got a lot of ideas running around in her head. So hopefully, when Ripazine 3 comes out, and that should be fulfilling at the end of this month, beginning early next month, she signed the copies of the Ripazine that are going to get graded. So I'm sure that will be fulfilling pretty soon, and then probably got a lot of pre-packing in the warehouse. So that'll probably go out end of this month, beginning of the next. And Edwin is making the observation that the campaign's only 28 days in, so it's likely to hit 750K. I agree here there. I think it be ending somewhere between 750 and a million is the really likely thing, and it's going to be massively successful for the Rippaverse. So a lot of people think that the amount of money the Rippaverse is making versus how much they're spending is completely in the red, and I think it's the complete opposite of that. So I think a lot of people who are making the criticism that the Rippaverse is going to go away are not business minded at all, but that's a whole other discussion. But like I said, I got the link in the chat. I just posted it. So you guys are welcome. Whether Edwin wants to come in or anybody else wants to come in and gab with me about the Rippaverse, more than welcome to. So probably going to go for maybe another half hour or so. It is almost, it's around 7:30. Definitely by 8, chill out for a bit, and then go to sleep. I got a busy day tomorrow. I gotta go to the bank at 9. I gotta hit the gym at 7. Go to the bank at 9. Of course, getting Yaira number 2, doing the Braxcast review, and I've got a bunch of indie comic book reviews I want to do. So I'm going to do a Fiendish Owen review. I got Fiendish 1, 2, and 2.5. I want to get a review or an overview of that, of Rennie's book, or book series, I should say, out by the end of this month. And I've got some other books that are on the spreadsheet that the deadline for me is to review it this month. And we've got Edwin in the here. So you are live on Braxcast Live. So how are you doing, Edwin?
Hey, I'm doing well. Sounds like you're doing pretty well with the Braxcast here.
No, I've been doing this 56 episodes, and it started off as a pre-recorded affair. And you can, I guess, we can go into my YouTube page. But I have this, little setup where I print stuff out from my printer. Let's see, actually, just type in, Braxcast, and yeah, so this is my, I don't want to necessarily, but this is the setup I have for Braxcast, and I think I can definitely frame things better because I got like this like dog food container that I put the gooseneck thing up there. But basically, this is my format where I'll show off like I'll print stuff out from the printer, and I'll show, of course, the books. So this is the episode where I did with Great War Separation. I've got that out there. But now I'm getting into live streaming with the Braxcast, and I think live streaming is definitely where it's at for the modern era of content creation, because you had, I guess, two eras where you had the the video creation that started like very early YouTube, where YouTube started in like 06, and that ended probably sometime after 16, and live streaming is the predominant thing. It's live streaming and shorts is where content creation is at these days. But what do you think?
No, so far so good. These days, I am primarily just a YouTube tourist. I've actually set myself a YouTube budget up of 2.5 hours a week. So you're watching just a bit of your program here is going to close out my YouTube budget for the week.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like I'm someone that's chronically online, but I've shirked away from that more and more. Especially like I go to the gym, I do my writing stuff, but a lot of the stuff that I do is online. But I work full time. I'm going to be like moving soon. I want to pursue an electrician's apprentice. So there's a lot of stuff I want to do in the real world. So you can't just sit on your butt and watch YouTube all day. And part of things that takes time away from doing anything leisurely is the stuff I do with the Braxcast and stuff like that. So content creation itself is like I would say all the stuff I do with Velvet Room Publishing is my side hustle. It's just it hasn't led to any sort of economic benefit for me. So I think I'm going to make $5 in book royalties this month, but that's a pretty rare occasion. So I'm.
I was going to say it's hard to break through. So we're kind of in an attention economy now, and so even if you have a relatively compelling product, something you're writing, a comic book, whatever, there's so many things screaming for people's attention that it's hard to get the eyes. Get somebody to slow down and take a look at whatever you're making.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. It's definitely an attention economy, which is why I say live streaming and shorts is where content creation is at. Shorts because it's not a big ask for someone's attention to watch a 30-second to 3-minute video. And with live streaming, you've got this interaction. So it's a very, with that interaction that you get, it's a lot much of more like, oh, you get in and instead of just watching a video, you get to interact with me, and of course you've got the chat and everything. So that's why I say live streaming and content creation is where it's at. But I've written 3 books. I've published 1, and the other 2 I'm going to publish this year. And a lot of people don't like to read text and want to do audiobooks, and it's like getting paying someone to read out the audiobook in a way that instead of me reading it, sitting down and reading it. That's definitely probably the way to go if you want to do books and such. But I've got it's called Machine to Man. That's on Velvet Room Publishing. .substack.com, and of course the prequel to Machine to Man is going to come out this year, and I've got a nonfiction book that is I think it's a 20,000 something word debunking of gender ideology. And of course, like I've got like over 60 citations of that, and that nonfiction book that really killed me. That was like it really drained me in terms of just like the idea of writing, because it was such a technical project for me to do, and it was not like fiction writing where you just have the ideas and you just come up with that and you just type. It's like I have to go through these studies and I have to actually interpret what I'm reading and then make an argument and such. So yeah, that was I finished that in April of last year. I'm going to publish that like it's like going to commemorate when I move. So like the day that, not necessarily the day that I move, but it's going to be like the second Monday in June. But let's see. So Mike has bad knees is saying EDS is just as tiring as TDS. I wholeheartedly agree with that. El Degusto saying smooth and velvety as always with Eddie. Yes, his voice sounds a lot better than mine. Let's see. So El Degusto saying the trade jobs are lucrative. Yes, that is exactly why I want to pursue becoming an electrician, is because I definitely need to get my income up. And I don't even have a bachelor's. I have an associate's degree, and I don't know. I'd rather walk on rusty nails, up and downhill than go back to college. That's just the way that I feel.
So I did my degree after the army, but I did it through an asynchronous program, so that as fast as I could move through something, I could move through something. And so I got my bachelor's in about a year and a half in financial analysis.
Yeah, no, that's decent. I mean, the financial world, especially these days with fintech, can be pretty lucrative. But I don't know. I'm 26. I'm going to be 27 next week.
Well,
So
it's
I
not a
feel,
bad time to start a trade.
yeah, no,
The only thing, are you fit?
oh yeah, yeah. No, I'm definitely. I mean, I go to the gym every day. So I'm not. I'm like 6'1". I'm like around 215. I don't have like a gut or anything. So I could be more physically fit, but I can do pull-ups, and I can run a mile under 10 minutes.
So
So
what I would see with electricians a lot. So for about 15 years, I was a project manager and sometimes superintendent for a demolition company. And so what I would see with electricians is a lot of bad backs and a lot of bad shoulders, because you're going to spend, particularly as an apprentice, you're going to spend much of the day with your hands over your head.
Yeah, no, no, I agree. So I used to work for Amazon. I would work the third shift, so I would get into work around 1 a.m. and I would go home at 11:50. That's when my
Mm.
yeah. So that was that, and that killed me. That was absolutely brutal. And that's the time of my life when I started getting healthier. So I started losing the weight. Stopped eating garbage, and one of the first things I noticed, I started sleeping better. But anyways, one of the things that I've gotten into as I've gotten into fitness is the fact that you need to focus a lot on recovery. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of things you can do, like corrective exercise, and I've got a steel club, like a 5 pound club, and I've swing it over my head, and you can do foam rolling and a lot of things, and I like that to make sure that your muscles don't lock up, and of course hydration and getting electrolytes is really important for stuff like that. So that's definitely stuff that I would know how to deal with stuff like that, and I'm used to being like worked physically because in Amazon I would walk to between like 10 and 20,000 steps a day. And you'd be constantly just like basically working. Well, what I did at Amazon was that it was not a fulfillment center; it was a delivery center. So it was the last place your package would go to before it actually would get delivered to you. So we get in the packages, we'd organize them, and then we put them in an area, and then we would load them up onto the trucks. And I did that for about 2 years. And I would also like load the trucks as well, like the delivery vans. That was something I did. And that was like 2 hours after having worked at like 6 or 7 hours, and you get like a 45-minute lunch and two 15-minute breaks. But yeah, that job absolutely killed me. And Amazon is like, I have like nothing but bad memories from working at
Oh
Amazon. There's
no.
some people I worked with that I was cool with. Um, but like every time I think about Amazon and working for Amazon, nothing but negative memories.
Well, I will tell you one thing though, that many steps per day probably made you a bit more intelligent. When you get low level, a lot of low level movements, so a lot of walking like that, just below the threshold of cardiovascular exercise, your body produces more of something called brain derived neurotropic factor, which promotes healthy cognition.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I didn't know about that. So, I don't know. Might be part of it. I think the bigger thing for me has been the fact that like I've cut seed oils out of my diet. I don't eat processed sugars basically at all.
Hmm.
So I have like I would say it's kind of like keto carnivore. I'm gonna eat steak, eggs, beef, raw milk, and yeah, I get my cheese. I have the Kerrygold double inner cheese. That's like my
Yeah,
go-to
yeah,
cheese.
Kerrygold's the way to go. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
So
that's
I've
my
like
favorite.
yeah, Kerrygold like butter. I've got the double
And
inner
the butter.
cheese. With,
Yeah, yeah, I can eat the butter like cheese.
yeah.
I get in
Yeah,
trouble with that.
yeah, I
Uh,
don't. Yeah,
I think
I
your
don't
chat is begging for us to go back to.
comic books. Yeah, we don't need to talk about my career aspirations. But yeah, that was a nice conversation. So Garfield's Bizarre Adventure saying, what are your thoughts on the new Rippaverse release schedule? 3 months into 2025, and several campaigns have been launched and fulfilled. And I think it's fantastic. But I'll let you get into that since since the question was directed to you.
Okay, so my initial thoughts here are my initial analysis. One, it's going to determine what the sustainable production schedule is, how much books that the existing Rippaverse audience can finance per year. One thing I've noticed though is that they are often offering lower price points for some of the books. So if there's people like me who are readers and not collectors or fans per se, like I'm not a completionist. I just want to read good stories, and so a lower price point because I'm not trying to preserve something in a pristine state. I don't own a single CGC graded comic book, right? I don't care about it. I read. The other thing that I see is because there's these flood of the books, you're going to get people like Joker here. You're going to be talking about the characters, about the things in the story, and that's good. Because once you have a high volume of people talking about the actual stories, the characters, what's going to happen next, who can take who in, a fight. Okay, if it's Braxton versus Batman, but Batman doesn't have prep time, when you start getting those kind of conversations, then you've got fans invested in the lore and you're set in. But one of the things that does is it makes a good discovery point. So if you've got people all over social media actually talking about the Rippaverse stories and that they enjoy them, other people will give it a try. I think after the close of Great War of Separation, the campaign, the collection campaign, when the whatever was left over or the next stage that could be purchased from the store, I want to say over the next 3 or 4 weeks, Rippaverse sold just shy of 1,000 copies, which is a good indicator that people are discovering it after the campaign. So that speaks highly for like the potential longevity and the positive buzz about the Rippaverse. Hey, Andrew, I don't think we've ever spoken.
Yes.
Howdy, gentlemen. Hello, Edwin. Good to see you. Joker, always good to see you.
Oh, good to see you too.
Thanks for having me in.
Yeah, no problem. It's nice that you decided to show up. But yeah, no, I agree with your points, and I'll talk this, personally. From what I see is that whenever I put out a Rippaverse view, those videos always get more traction than anything else I put on the channel. And when I would say, yeah, Braxcast on YouTube has the most amount of traction, or a consistent amount of traction. So there is a growing fan base of people for the Rippaverse, and there are people who are seeing that and then deciding to engage with it on that basis. And especially as you've got books that are a lot cheaper, the Rippazine, of course, is always going to be under $10. You've got Yaira 2 being like 14. I think Blood Roof's Black and White was like 13. So you've got a lot of cheap buying in points. So not everyone's going to be like me, where like I'm a madman. I'll buy like the graded copies for basically every book. Because I think I said on the first Braxcast Live, I have graded copies of every Rippaverse book, and it's not entirely accurate. I don't have graded copies for Gooding or Great War of Separation, and I'm probably not going to send those in to CGC since I let my membership expire. But I do have all of the signature series that you guys have sold on the website. I've bought all of those, but that's someone who's like really into it, and not everyone's going to be like that. A lot of people are going to be just like, I'll buy 1 or 2 books, check it out, and if I like it, I'll buy more. But with the fact that something like Great War Separation is under $20, the fact that you've got the Ripazine that's under $10, gives people a lot of good points to get in on the Rippaverse, and you see that there is this organic fan base that's growing around the Rippaverse, and it's only going to get bigger as more books get released. But I'll let you chime in on this, Andrew.
Well, yeah, and thanks again for having me jump in. I know you said you were only going to be going for another 20 minutes or so, and that was like 5 minutes ago. But yeah, I love hanging out with you. I love hanging out with when Alvin and not the Chipmunks, but when Alvin and the other Rippaverse fans do the Twitter X Spaces. Those are fun. Interacting with the fans is a major blessing. It's a benefit of being an indie publisher that doesn't have to worry about a lot of the corpo nonsense. Having that kind of face-to-face interaction is incredibly valuable. And to the point of what you were just saying, when it comes to books selling pretty significantly well after a collection or a campaign has ended, that discovery is incredibly important, and the enthusiasm that comes from y'all is what drives that. Because I mean, we can put out ads on Google and Facebook and X and all of that, and that's fine, that's important. But if there's no enthusiasm, because I mean, Marvel and DC and Lucasfilm and all, they advertise their stuff all the time, right? But their sales are in the gutter comparatively to when they were in a more healthy position. But that's because they don't have the positive interaction, the positive enthusiasm coming from their fans. They've lost most of those fans. Instead, what y'all do is y'all do stuff like this. Y'all do stuff like the Spaces on X that Rippa Guy and other people do. So the positive interactions and the positive press is really what keeps those sales going. And that works both ways, because if we start putting out a bunch of stuff that y'all aren't into and you don't like, and y'all are giving bad reviews for because you think it's a bad book, then that will conversely, affect the sales as well. All of a sudden we'll start to see that dip. So it's a blessing and a curse, and it keeps us honest because it means we have to stay on our game. But the benefit and blessing of being an indie publisher is we can pivot on our feet pretty quickly. We had just planned on Horseman being a one shot, right? And with the intent in mind of, if it sells really well, I'm sure Chuck and Joe are going to want to do more because it's one of their original creations. And yeah, absolutely, we would entertain that. But you blew it up. And all of a sudden we were like, hey, Chuck, can you get going on the next script? Joe, get ready for more drawing, because you all were showing us exactly what you wanted. And to what you were saying about the lower price points, what Edwin was just saying was perfect. He's a reader, not a collector. It's impossible to cater to literally everyone. However, you can try to widen your base customer pool and demographic as much as possible within reason. You can do that, and you can bring in other sub audiences and sub demographics without running the risk of pissing off your base demographic. There's some give there, there's some grace there, as long as you're still being respectful to the characters that you're putting out that people enjoy. And so for people like Edwin, they just want to read a good book, right? And we're very happy that it seems like you've been enjoying what you have read so far. So thank you so much for supporting us as much as you have. Obviously, to you as well, Joker, and everybody out there in the chat. You guys are fantastic. And we know that in this economy, hopefully it gets better, it's hard to ask people to spend $35 on a book every couple of weeks. Not everyone's used to that type of thing. Other people, especially since we have a lot of first-time comic book fans in the Rippaverse fandom, right? Or fairly new comic book fans like yourself, Joker, right? So you don't have that habit ingrained already where you're already used to just dropping 30, 40, $50, sometimes more, depending on the week, at your local comic shop. week in and week out, right? And so having easier entry points for people that might be curious because they saw a cool looking cover, they saw a cool looking character, or they heard somebody talking about one of the books, right? Having a magazine that is under $10, that's an easy jumping on point. We sell the magazines at cons like hotcakes, and it's because we can easily tell them, hey, look, this is low impact to the wallet, it's low commitment. If you find something in here you dig, come on back tomorrow. Or if you can't make it back, hit up our website. Every single one of our books is available there, right? And to Edwin's point again, we have those covers, our mass print covers, that we specifically price down, right? So that they're at a more entry level, easier to jump on point. And that's going to expand further because, and what I mean by that is expanding beyond just the financial perspective. I mean, the narrative respect. There are a lot of people who got into comic books, say got into Marvel, right? Because they picked up a Spider-Man comic book, or their brother or cousin or dad got them Spider-Man, right? That became their gateway drug. All of a sudden, they're like, I love this. Maybe I'll check out this thing over here. And all of a sudden, they check out X-Men, and then they check out Cap, and then they check out Avengers, right? And so on and so forth. DC has the same sort of thing. We're eventually going to have something for virtually everyone. Not everything is going to be for everyone, but we will have something for virtually everyone at some point. And we'll have a comic that I'm sure in the near future that it will be that gateway drug for a lot of people. Obviously, Isom was a great one. It launched our whole freaking universe and did phenomenally. And a lot of people have been dying for Isom 3. Y'all won't be disappointed. But that point will happen as well. So having different entry points, whether it's narratively, whether it's price point, all of that is super important. And we're taking this seriously. And I think the Rippaverse fandom and other people who are maybe newer to the fandom space, but are, kind of like cautious or careful, objective observers like yourself, Edwin, you're seeing that happen in real time. We're taking this seriously. We don't, make 800,000 on Horseman and then sit on our thumbs, right? Or make 700,000 on Bloodruth and then sit on our thumbs. No, we take that, we reinvest it back and like, okay, so now we're going to greenlight this, and this, right? Because we can justify that we're well past the profitability point at that point, like long past.
That's where the Ripazine is kind of brilliant, because you can trial a story or a theme or an idea, and it's really kind of a classical concept, right? I kind of grew up with those kind of magazines.
Wizard Magazine used to do that
with serialized stories, yeah. And so, like, say, if everyone reads Dirty Deeds and they're like, hey, we want more of this, well, then you can make a Dirty Deeds book. I'm going to have to go in just a second, Joker. I did save your Machine to Man. Did you know that Joker was a writer, Andrew?
I did.
Existence is the state I now find myself in, with my body lying on a metal table. My first sight was a gray ceiling. I looked around, turning my head to the left and then the right, and saw the room filled with pots. All right, I will read that later. But I know what I wanted to say before I said goodbye. I just want to acknowledge one of your viewers, Ram. He's got good priorities. Ram, I am a Protestant, but good to see that you put first things first, and you went and took care of the spiritual things before you came on YouTube and got some entertainment. So good for you, sir.
Yeah, no, that's one of the things that I want to see catechism into the one holy apostolic and Catholic Church. And I'm not talking about the Roman Catholic Church, I'm talking about the Orthodox Church, but I want to get into specific denominations. But one of the things is, seek first the kingdom of God and everything else will be added onto you. So Ram definitely got that. And that's directly quoting our Lord and Savior. So good on you, Ram. And he was in the chat at the very beginning, and then he went to Mass. So that was a great thing to do. Let's see. Rippaverse has the diversity of 60s to 70s eras Marvel, having all these genres and Garfield's looking forward to Dirty Deeds.
You will not be disappointed.
Yes, I am too. Garfield was a huge comic buyer in his late
Pose that
teens and early 20s, and then stopped with all the dumb stuff. The mainstream Rippaverse got him back into buying comics. Says, thank you, my fellow brothers in Christ. That's where I am saying that, no problem. But yes, definitely. Like very recently, I've come to leaving the material mindset into having faith. Like I've been reading through the Bible. The one that I have, my 66 book New King James Version. I'm on Jeremiah now. So I've been reading that every day. Some days are better than others because I think today I just read like a chapter, but I do read it every day. But some, like, especially I took some, went and visited my grandmother, and on the plane, I read through basically like rest of the Psalms, and then on the flight back, I read through most of Isaiah. And Isaiah is a big one because that has the prophecies of Jesus. Unto us a son is born, a child is given, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Mighty Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. But that's a whole other thing. So we'll keep this about comics. So Edwin, you got to get soon. Definitely appreciate you reading the prologue to my book, or at least a portion of it. So yeah, Machine to Man. I think of that as a pretty interesting story, and that's what people have told me. And when I went to Pork Fest, because I am a libertarian. I've gone to Pork Fest twice, and I've sold through the book. And the last Pork Fest I went to, I actually sold the book to a guy, and then the next day he comes to me. He says, "I read it through all in the night," and it's like, "I want you to sign it." I was like, a bit of a shock to me because very rarely do people ever interact with me. So yeah, that's probably like my biggest success. I felt like having a writer, like someone reading what you write and then actually being engaged with it. And that's the thing that you want with anything when you write, when you're entertaining, is to be entertaining. The biggest sin you can commit in the entertainment space isn't to make something that's bad, it's to be boring, because you're supposed to be entertaining. Yeah, so that's the thing.
Well, I am not entertaining, so I am going to say good evening to you, gentlemen. But again, it was thank you for letting me come on and say hello.
Thank you for your insight.
Yeah,
Edwin.
Yeah, fantastic to have you on, Edwin. And you have a good night.
Thanks.
Okay, so it is just us, Andrew. So Garfield says, even though he's not personally religious talk doesn't bother him, and seeing biblical references in the Rippaverse is intriguing. Yes, definitely agree. And that's the thing, is that, I mean, that's been the issue with like the new atheist movement, is where it's become like the anti-religion, and it's just as fundamentalist and intolerant as like any other cult. And well, Edwin is gone now, but I guess apparently that is his real voice.
That is his real voice. Yeah. I've seen Edwin on streams in the past. That is in fact his real voice. He has got a voice for radio if ever there was one.
Yeah, well, I've got a face for radio, so.
Don't be that hard on yourself.
Yeah, I remember when I was in college, it was like 2018, and I was at like the club fair. I think it was like the radio club, and I said that, and I said it really deadpan, and the girl at like at the table, she didn't get what I was saying, that I was like making a self-depreciating joke. But yeah, that's like my classic line there. But this is definitely getting towards 8 o'clock, and we've been going on for almost 2 hours now. So I definitely.
Oh yeah, man. If you gotta shut it down, by all means.
Yeah. It's not that like I want to shut it down. It's like I'm getting to the point where I definitely want to. Not definitely want to, but definitely want to get to the point where we're going to be ending things. But firstly, based on what you know, Chadran versus Santwan, because I was talking about this earlier in the stream. I want to do this catch street. That's what I'm calling catch street. And then I take two Rippaverse characters, or two characters, or at least one Rippaverse character, and we're pitting them against each other. So this stream was launching this, and it was Chadran versus Santwan, and I'm Chadran all the way in a Chadran versus Santwan fight. He's bigger, he's cooler, and he's got the hair. So what do you think?
I cannot comment on that because I know far more about both characters than y'all. In great detail. So all I will say is that both characters are absolute beasts. Both characters have a lot more going on than we've seen thus far, that y'all have seen thus far in the released books, but you will see more very soon.
Fantastic. I figured you'd say something like that, but I figured I would ask you. And I got the Young Isom statue. Mine, I believe, is 43 of 500. My Yaira statue is 93 of 500.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
yeah, so I absolutely love both of them. So I got Yaira next. She's on top of my PS4. My Young Isom is on the statue. So, I mean, what do you think of doing like a Young Isom series? Because that's the first thing that jumped into my mind with Young Isom. And of course, we have this time before he retired, when he was a hero. That'd be really interesting to get into. And then I guess the other thing, I think, this will be a two-faced question. What about zero issues? I know zero issues are like the origin issues for comic book characters, and we haven't had a zero issue for a Rippaverse character yet, and I think that's a bit of a missed opportunity. So I'll let you answer that, and I think we'll wrap it up after that.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people want some stories that explore Avery's time, where he was donning that original suit, and he was hitting the streets as Isom in a very rookie vigilante capacity. That is something that I'm sure Eric has entertained. I know he's mentioned before on streams and in videos that he will be after Isom 3. His focus is going to be on a couple other books first before diving back into Isom. So his focus shifted from Isom after wrapping up that initial ill-advised arc. But yes, there will be more Isom. Yes, it will still be called Isom. No, it will not be called something else. Just in case that was not clear. If you heard otherwise, you're wrong. He was focusing after that on Salvage. So we got the Salvage Lethal Force graphic novel coming out. And if that sells really well and you guys really love it, he will absolutely entertain doing more Salvage. We got Saoirse starting up. And the more you guys love Saoirse, the more Saoirse you get as well. And then obviously the limited series for Norfolka, Glorious Death. So he's shifting his focus over there temporarily. However, I'm sure that there are some younger Isom, kind of Isom 1.0 stories banging around in that man's head, because he's got quite a few stories banging around in his noggin. And if that's something that y'all want to see, I think, and I can say this actually with confidence, no, not just I think, I know that the fans know that we've shown you that we're willing to give you what you want, what you ask for, what you tell us and show us you are willing to buy. If you keep doing that, if you do that with, say, I don't know, Young Isom, maybe you'll get some stories about a younger Isom in the not too distant future. Who knows?
Yeah. Fantastic. And I think, let's see, Garfield says we need more Kanan White interiors. And I think a character like Saoirse being drawn by Kanan, like, no way Saoirse #1 comes out and we aren't all saying we need like 10 more issues of this stat. Salvage and Horseman flat out have the two most iconic looks, like the standout comic character style. I love Horseman's design. Salvage is really cool. So Salvage Lethal Force is one I'm excited for as well. That short story is really interesting. And of course, Bart Sears is a fantastic artist. I think his style really suits that noir vibe that Salvage has. And of course,
it does.
Like the powers that Salvage has, really interesting. But it seems like I'm going to go through some of the chat. So Santwan definitely is a merc. Chadran's got the big bad vibe. Let's see, it's like manga, you have to get a later season, get deeper lore on the origins. It certainly is true, but I think comics, they classically have those zero issues, which is the big thing, is like more origin stories. We got that one with Gooding, but we definitely need more of those. We definitely are hungry for Kanan. Always get his covers. Yes, Kanan's covers are absolutely fire. Like they are so good. That man is just such a talented artist. He's definitely elevated every other artist at the Rippaverse. But I don't think there's really much else in the chat. If I did miss anything in the chat, I apologize, but I'm going to end things here. Thank you so much, Andrew, for coming on and gabbing with me. Of course, Edwin.
Of course, I was happy to pop through.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, Edwin had a really nice conversation. This was really interesting. This is like probably the best episode of Braxcast Live yet. And we've got Panax07. You are in the chat. So we're going to be ending things up. But if you just want to say hello and give some commentary on how you thought the stream was and what you like most about the Rippaverse, give that. And then we're going to be closing things up.
Thanks for fitting me in, man. I was just on the drive home, run some errands after work, so I wanted to hop. Give me a few minutes to hop on the stream. Thanks again, Andrew, for what you've been doing, for all of the things that I'm actually waiting on my Great War Separation and Yaira. They're coming to my mailbox tomorrow. Can't wait to crack those open. And I just saw Great War Separation 2. So I know we're probably going to get rolling. I know Chuck is already rolling around, and we've gotten a lot of great updates. I guess the thing is also Rippaverse really got me back into comics after a while. I won't get into the story here, but basically it was actually reading Watchmen that discouraged me from reading comics further when I read it in college. And Rippaverse got me back into it. I'll post in the Facebook group a little more longer explanation. But the point is, Rippaverse and y'all got me back into comics. Thank you very much. And just the thing about in the meantime, I've been a novel reader person, and I'm sure you have some in the audience in your customer base who are, like you said, first time comic reader, particularly coming from novels. And the thing that I've gotten is I know in American comics, and this is just something that kind of that has kind of ruffled my feathers a little bit, is like, you know how in Alpha Core you have a scene where all three of them are fighting BBQ, or which is it? It's one of the covers. I don't have it. I have one of the other ones, but it's one of the covers.
Billy Bob Quinn?
Yeah. It's kind of like I think they're fighting him, but it's a scene that doesn't happen.
That is the thing that American comics is known for.
And again, it's just I know it's American comics thing, and I'd forgotten about it until when I came back to comics, and I was looking after the first time I read it. It's like, where's the scene? And then I read it back again. I was like, wait, where's the scene again? Did I miss it? Did my pages go together? Nope.
Just meant to be an eye-catching marketing image.
No, and I know, and I've accepted it as a style thing that like any American comic that it does, because I know manga doesn't. I don't think manga does it as much. And it was just something to get used to. But I really, really enjoyed it, and I really also of the newer characters. I like them all. Bloodruth was great. Guy was great. They're all great. But I know the next time when you're talking to Mike, when's our boy Gooding gonna get a robot? The man needs a robot.
Who knows?
Yeah,
maybe he was already got one. You just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I just want him to see him behind the controls, like Gundam Mech Warrior style. Maybe that's how he can fight. I mean, obviously that's the only way he can probably fight Chadran or Santwan. But yeah, I hope he's got one. Let's get our boy a robot if he doesn't already have it. But thank you again, Andrew. I'm glad you could. And Joker, thanks for letting me hop on. I wanted to get to a place where I could park and join the stream.
No, that's all good. Oh yeah, but no, I'm at like 99 subscribers now, so I think I was like seven people that subscribed. So absolutely fantastic. Love all the engagement. All you guys going through the chat. Garfield saying that Bloodroof, Deer Tick, and Choke look great. Those were the best character designs. Love that Bloodroof family portrait. That was a great spread. Very early on in that book. Let's see. Manga doesn't sell issues and first sold in compilation magazines and volumes later. Yeah, those manga volumes, a lot of people read them.
Yeah, those come later
on the weeklies. So yeah, the manga market really isn't focused on making covers, especially since you've got the tankobons. They're much smaller, whereas a comic book is going to be much larger. So the cover is going to be much more important. I've loved all the covers for the Rippaverse so far, especially I think Alpha Core cover B. If you want to talk about something that doesn't happen, there's no fight between Lillian and Ingrid, but it's just such a good.
I almost brought that one up.
Yeah, and of course that's done by Jack Herbert, and I'm going to be going through his art book tomorrow. But that is, we're so close. One more to 100, and we'll have 100. Which I might.
That Great War Separation cover, the one with the Texas flag on it, was so it's beautifully iconic. And the funny thing is, people who may not know the United States, they assume that was the U.S. Capitol behind him on the horse,
Yeah.
and it's the Texas Capitol, the actual Texas Capitol. And I thought
Yep.
that was a really creative. I mean, Eric's from Texas, so he would know, but I still thought that was such a creative choice, because any other creator could have made, or an artist that's not necessarily from Texas could have just made that mistake or used another building. But you can look at it, and if you look up the Texas Capitol, you're like, yeah, that's the actual Texas Capitol the horse is in front of. It's it's a nice creative touch, and another thing I like about the art of the Rippaverse, especially for the covers.
I appreciate that, man. That's a beautiful cover.
Yeah, no, cover D. That was the cover that I used to do my review of Great War Separation. Absolutely love.
Definitely has like Lone Ranger vibes. I know that was the intention, with a little bit of Ghost Rider and with all the flames.
Yeah. Okay, but yeah. So, is there anything else? Because I think I'm going to close things up. I gotta.
Thanks again, man. I just wanted to pop in and
Yeah.
do this comics. Just waiting for my books tomorrow, and I'll probably be I got to work tomorrow, but I'll be listening in at work after I've cracked open my copy of Yaira 2.
Yeah.
Well, be sure to tell us what you think, man.
Yeah, and
All
I'll
right.
be putting my review for Yaira 2 out tomorrow. I got a big episode of the Braxcast because I'm going to be showing off my Young Isom statue as well. So be sure to watch Braxcast number 57. That will be a pre-recorded thing. My Yaira number 2 review will be out tomorrow as well. But I think that is it. So fantastic stream. Loved all you guys that showed up. We went for over 2 hours. It felt like a couple of minutes. I hope more fans find this channel. Yes, and I really just hope that people enjoy the Rippaverse, right? And of course, if by extension people find me, enjoy the content I make about the Rippaverse, and then enjoy the stuff that I write, that's fantastic as well. But it's just nice that just gab about this and have this space where we can just talk about the comics and keep it about the comics. But I'm going to sign off. So. Everyone have a good night, but it's going to end here. So thank you so much.
God bless
again.
and Godspeed.
Yeah, fantastic.
Good
God bless
night.
and Godspeed. Good night. Okay, so